Sophie Jackson, Joint Publisher and Head of Strategic Content at the Treasury Today Group. I'm very excited to be here today to host our conversation around work and life in Asia. So first up today, I'm going to be hosting a fireside chat with Sumit Mitra, who is CEO of Tesco Business Services and Tesco Bengaluru. I'll then be moving to host a group conversation between myself, Honus Chung, and Seng T Go. Hi Sumit, thank you so much for being with us today. It's really a true pleasure and a privilege to speak with you. So by way of introduction of yourself to our audience, you're an acclaimed and award-winning leader with 2 decades of business experience. You're known as a hands-on leader with strategic vision, and you've worked across the US, the UK, and Asia, now acting as the CEO of Tesco Business Services and Tesco Bengaluru. So you're working now between the UK and India. Tell us a little about your role and what it entails.
Hi, Sophie, and it's absolute pleasure to be on this session. I have a very interesting role in Tesco. I am the CEO of Tesco's Global Business Services Operations, which is the backbone of how Tesco is run across 4 countries. So we have a center in Budapest, we have a center in the UK, and a center in India, where we support the entire operations for Tesco. I also am the CEO of Tesco in India. I also sit on the board of our joint venture retail operations in partnership with Tata Group in India as well. And I also sit on the board of our wholesale division in India as well.
Wow, so you're certainly keeping yourself busy. Firstly, I want to say that the situation in India has been very painful to watch. And as somebody who works with Asia, my thoughts have been with the country and the community. And I wanted just to take a moment to say that today. So let's speak about your oversight on the pandemic and how that's been affecting you as a business leader.
I think the especially the wave 2 has been incredible. If you kind of think about the volume of infection that happened in India is nothing that I've seen in my lifetime, and I don't think anybody has seen in their lifetime. We were looking at over 600 to 700,000 cases every day in India, and here in Karnataka, in Bangalore, we were seeing almost 80-90,000 cases every day. And that had a severe impact on our colleagues, not only just colleagues, their friends, their families, and their social, mental well-being, their physical well-being has had a huge impact. But the whole monotony of it, if you think about it, kind of kicked off last year in 2020 in March, and around December, January 2020, we were thinking, okay, we've probably seen the worst bit of Corona. But then, the wave 2 started in India, and it really impacted every single person, directly or indirectly across the business. So as a CEO, and as I said, we run mission critical processes for Tesco from here in Bengaluru, which meant that we really had to adopt and adapt ourselves to deal with this change, to deal with this, huge issue we have in society as well as in business. And how do we plan ahead and plan, not only just plan ahead, but plan right here, right now to deal with that. But very luckily, we had the infrastructure in place. We had a very, very resilient workforce who were dedicated towards a common cause, which is serving our shoppers a little better every day. So they were on it, and we did a number of things to support our colleagues through this journey during COVID.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. That was great to hear. So emerging from this, what does that look like in India for the business community?
I think what's very interesting here, Sophie, is a lot of people talk about, oh, we are all in the same storm. But I always say that, yeah, we may be in the same storm, but we are all in different boats because everybody's problems are different. Depending on where you come from, where you live, your family size, whether you're living on your own. So everybody had their own problems. And also this pandemic had a social and economical issues as well, where colleagues, families lost their jobs. So it was been incredible. But what came out right through this is the random act of kindness. It really reinstalled my faith in humanity in terms of how people build empathy into their system, into their day-to-day working, and took care of each other has been incredible. I think as a business, the biggest lesson is how do you actually bring in empathy in your leadership style and make sure that everybody is different and you treat people how they would like to be treated rather than you treating them how the corporation want to treat them. So I think that was the biggest lesson that we've learned from COVID.
Yes, as you say, everybody's problems are different, and therefore we've all had to evolve individually and as very different businesses. So specifically for you, what's changed over the last year? How have you adapted to such volatility whilst leading your organization?
Yeah, I think it's if you think about the Tesco as a business, when there was lockdown in the UK and Europe, our volume, the panic buying started, our volume went up. If I give you some statistics, our online business went from 600,000 orders a week to 1.3 million orders per week in a matter of 3-4 months. If you think about the colleagues that has been impacted in the markets that we serve, we had just in the UK alone, we had over 50,000 colleagues who were either diagnosed with COVID or showed symptoms and had to self-isolate, or were vulnerable to COVID because of certain illness or classified vulnerable. So, which meant that we had to recruit almost 48,000 new colleagues to support our customers because our volumes are going up and the shop wouldn't run itself. So it was really important that we went back to the drawing board and hired. And I'll share incredible statistics. So between looking at a CV and having somebody on board doing the interview process, we did it in 4 hours. And we hired 48,000 colleagues in 6 weeks, which is an incredible achievement. And then if you think about our year-end results, which created more volume for our finance colleagues, the changes, ad shifts, moves, changes that was happening in the stores with our colleagues, that increased workload on our payroll. So overall, from a Tesco Business Services perspective, our workload went up in between 40% to about 70%. But what was important was you start at the top in terms of making sure as a leader of the business, you are physically and mentally healthy and in a good space to lead the team. Because this is not BAU leadership. This is, a wartime leadership. And that requires a certain degree of different way of thinking. And also what was important was that you don't think yourself as a Superman or a Batman, because your superpower lies with your team. So you need to ensure that your direct reports and their direct reports are suitably empowered to take decisions, to do the right things for their customers and do what is right for the customers. So one of the things we did as a business was went really early. So when we saw the early signs of COVID in 2020, in February, we saw the issues in Iran, Italy, and we were hearing stories from China. We actually prepared ourselves because we know that we are the backbone of our organization. So we made sure by February, all colleagues, almost 99.9% of them, they were working from home and they had the right infrastructure, right broadband, right connectivity, right chairs to ensure that they can do the hard graft. We also supported our team through what we call a daily pulse survey, because what was important that we've never done this before in terms of your entire workforce working from home. So we lose the personal touch on a daily basis. So what we introduced was called a daily pulse survey, which took almost 3 seconds to complete, which kind of asked how you're feeling today, how was your yesterday, and the help that you need from us through a space. And our colleagues, almost 70-80% of our colleagues filled in on a daily basis, and that gave us, and they've been continuously doing it since last March. And what it does, it gave us a real rich data and insight on colleagues' issues, problems, and support they would need. And then we geared up our organization, our leadership team, to support that. We provide mental support for our colleagues who needed it, financial support, physical support, whatever they needed. At least we were looking at it on a daily basis, and we could fix it on the spot straight away. What we also did was ensure that we increased the insurance policies for their family, for our colleagues and their family, because you want to take away that worry just in case they had COVID. But what was really successful for us is having a single purpose within our organization that connected every single person together. Because if you think about Tesco, a lot of our colleagues are based in India, and they haven't really, a lot of them haven't been to the real Tesco in UK or Europe. So which meant that it was very difficult to connect what was going on in our markets. So one of the key things we did was we connected to one purpose, the purpose of feeding nations during crisis. And what we felt that, this is a chance of a lifetime to feed nations, and we will never in our lifetime would get an opportunity to do that. And that got everybody together to drive that single common purpose of feeding nations. That really helped us to drive our business through this pandemic.
I love what you say there. Yes, empathy is such an important trait, and it's a trait that we should be seeing in great leaders. So you are a leader with a great responsibility, a CEO. So let's think about that role of the modern CEO amidst a world full of economic, political, and social risk. What does the characteristics of a modern CEO look like to you?
That's a great question, Sophie. Sounds like a cliche, but only thing that is constant in life now is change. And change has always been there, and it will be there in the next 100 years. So more so now than ever, in terms of the economic impact, the physical impact, mental impact. And as a CEO, it's really important to adopt and adapt to this change. One of the things I talked about earlier is, as a CEO, you need to ensure that you bring empathy right at the forefront of everything that you do. You got to put yourself into others' shoes to make sure that you understand their problem and you treat people how they would like to be treated. That's the most fundamental important piece. The second piece is around, you can control the controllables. We can sit here and get really wound up about what's going to happen in next 6 months, 1 year, 2 year. Yes, of course, there is a level of planning that is required, which I call scenario planning, in terms of, if A happens, B happens, C happens, and how do you deal with those changes. But what's important is to focus here and now, focus on what is within your control. What is within your control is your emotions. What is in your control is how do you run your business, and how do you put your customers and your colleagues right at the heart and center of everything that you do. Sounds very simple, but rather than cluttering your brain with lots of information, and some of them are fake news, so it's important to trust the data that's coming to you, important to have selective data, and important to base your decision on data, but bringing empathy right at the heart and center, and believing and dealing with what you can control, and that, rather than worrying about what you can't control. And finally, where the world is shifting to now is more about networking than hierarchy, and working in a more matrix management organization. So the concept of hierarchy and governance, you need a level of governance, but the micromanagement is gone. I call it accountable freedom. And that's what we need to give our colleagues, to take the decision right at the coalface, to ensure that they make the right decision for their customers, and give them the empowerment to take those decisions. It's their customers too. So it's really important to push that. And then the final one would be moving more on longer term planning, away from longer term planning to more experimentation, stop, start, and continue, and doing a reflection to understand what you don't need to do anymore. What do we need to stop to create that bandwidth? What do we need to do more of? And what do we need to start doing to do things differently? I think that self reflection as a business is really important. And always stick to the purpose of the organization. In Tesco, we have a fantastic purpose which says serving our shoppers a little better every day. And that weaves in a culture of continuous improvement within our DNA. And as long as we stick to the values, stick to the culture, stick to the purpose of the organization, you can't go wrong.
I love that idea of not seeing yourself as a superhero. The personal ego can certainly be dangerous when leading a team. Thank you so much for sharing your insights there. That was very enlightening and helpful. Are there any other final thoughts you'd like to share with our global community here today?
Yeah, I mean, the one final word, if I leave here, is I would say life's battles are never won by bravest, cleverest, or smartest. It's won by people who believe they can win. I think COVID has created, we can choose to look at our glass half full or half empty. I always choose to look at it as half full. I think this pandemic, yes, has created issues, but it also opened up a lot of opportunities. And what we need to do as a business is grab hold of those opportunities and be closer to our customers. That's the most important thing. Get close to the customer, get close to the colleague. You can't go wrong.
Thank you so much, Sumit. That was amazing. So now I'm off to speak with Honus and Sengti. So Honus was CFO of Travelzoo when we first began really working together in Hong Kong, although she's been involved with Treasury Today since long before that. She's a key figure, has been a key figure in corporate finance within leading roles at Yahoo and Travelzoo. Honus has also been vociferous in lending her voice to conversations around payments, the bread and butter of corporate finance, whilst also supporting issues of the day such as gender equality and inclusion, mentoring and supporting other professionals. Today, Honus has become a vibrant entrepreneurial force and is present within the APAC tech, media and telecom startup community. She's co-founder of Mojo Domo Group, which is a loyalty marketing platform, and is the founder of 2020 Limited, a corporate advisory company. She's also a mentor within She1K, a female representation-focused startup support platform, is based in Hong Kong. And then Sengti, who is in Singapore. So Sengti has also had an illustrious corporate finance career at Isuzu Motors in Asia, working his way up the ladder there. His last full-time role was Senior General Manager of Finance and Administration. And Sengti has also now moved to set up his own company, Focal Partners Private Limited, and he is based in Singapore. Perfect. So first of all, Sengti, I want to come to you. Can you tell us a little bit about your professional background and your experience and roles in Asia so far?
Right, so thanks a lot, Sophie. Thank you for the invitation. I'm most happy to be joining you on this panel. Myself, I'm a Singaporean, born and bred in Singapore, having worked in Singapore. And I started off my career in the bank. I was an interbank dealer at Sumitomo Mitsui Bank. After that, I joined a hedge fund trading JGB futures, UST bonds futures, stock indices futures. So I was pretty much a hedge fund trader, if you call it that way. Then I got bitten by the bug. I joined the corporate treasury space, and that's where I started my corporate treasury.
I want us to move now to think about what the last 18 months, 2 years have been like. I mean, obviously, across the whole world, everyone's experienced this in very different ways. But what we're here to think about today is what's been specific about the experiences in Asia Pacific. So Sengti, you've moved away from your role at Isuzu in the last year. Tell us a little bit about that journey. Against the backdrop of the pandemic, but also what's been different since you've moved away, or how you've experienced that journey.
Yeah, thanks. It has actually been a very exciting for myself, right? I was in the corporate treasury space for quite a number of years, and then I was helming the ACTS, and I would say pretty much quite at the apex. Then I decided that I need to leave. I needed new challenges. I was actually looking for a career in the digital banks space, but somehow or another it didn't really work out. And the usual roles came along the way, right? CFOs, treasurers, and all. But something just inside me just said, YOLO. You only live once, right? You need to live for what you really. And I really wanted to be an entrepreneur, right? My wife was saying that, Sing T, I think there's something wrong with you. You are suffering from midlife crisis. That's why you're leaving such a good paying job and, starting all out again. Right. But I guess that's something that many people, many professionals are refining or rejuvenating themselves in their careers, right? There's nothing too old, nothing too late, nothing too new. As long as you really believe in it, you should start it. And that's what I firmly believe in. As we speak, there are some firm plans coming along, which I can't divulge too much, but it's definitely exciting. And I can see over the past, I would say, 18 months, things have changed a lot, especially with this thing about COVID. It has actually been much more longer, protracted than we all would have wished for.
Honors, tell us a little bit about how you've experienced the pandemic in Hong Kong on a personal and on a professional level.
This is a very good question that has been asked for, in the last period 6 months. But now the good thing is Hong Kong, to a certain extent, the pandemic situation is a bit steady compared with the West. It's all about the comparison. Now Hong Kong is better, Taiwan is not. Compared with Hong Kong, is not that good. China is ahead because most of 60% of the population, they have the first vaccine. Hong Kong is a bit lucky. Yes, we have vaccine for us to choose. And also, currently, as you know, we have the lucky draw. If you have the two vaccine, finish two vaccine by September, you can join the lucky draw by a lot of real estate companies, shopping mall, and also even the Hong Kong Airport Authority, MTR. Actually, they provide. We are very lucky being a citizen here. Taking vaccine, and then you have a chance to have lucky draw. And I think Hong Kong, to a certain extent, is because we have the SARS experience, pretty much like Singapore or Taiwan, but we really suffer a lot in 2003. That's why in general public, we have all kind of precaution, like during the pandemic time, even the government don't have a lot of regulation. Talking about 18 months ago, we already, wash our hand and also have wearing masks because we're really afraid. I still remember 2003, we suffer more than 400 to 1,000 people die, during that time. It's really a big loss for Hong Kong. And to a certain extent, we suffer a bit for the mask. We haven't got a mask at the very beginning, but later we got a lot of manufacturers, even locally, we have the manufacturers who make the mask. That's why mask, sanitizer, that kind of thing is no longer an issue. And basically, we have, from a medical system perspective, we are also very good as well. We don't have any sort of respiration machine. And also, as long as we identify your building is infected, the whole building need to carry out a lot of tests, maybe send you to the quarantine home. That's why I think we have already got the muscle power how to deal with this kind of thing. I must say, during the last 18 months, we changed a lot. We learn from home, work from home, and also shop from home. Basically, we just work with, my dear friend. This is my computer, my mobile device, and my computer. Basically, I touch base with them. Without them, we were in a big trouble. And originally, we planned, hey, it may be just a short period, but end up, actually, it's more than 18 months. Up till now, I think it's already close to 2 years. I haven't been traveling for more than 18 months already. And we expect this kind of situation will continue for another 6 months. I think most of us already get used to how to, using the device to carry out the conference, and as well as how to work. That's why I like what Sing Tan say. I think co-working space has started to be very booming from this perspective. A lot of office, they already think about what will be their plan in future from the office renting perspective, from the traveling perspective. I think business travel definitely will cut a bit. Will cut a bit compared with before. But at the same time, we also understand that this device can't replace for human touch. We still love to have the conference physically. We still love to see our colleagues physically. This is a kind of, it will be a hybrid mode. On one hand, you will have the device. Maybe on the other hand, we have the one who attend the conference physically. I think this will be the new normal sooner or later. Another thing is cybersecurity. Apart from personal hygiene, I think cyber hygiene will be another topic. We find during these few months, a lot of hackers, a lot of cyber threat, in using your mobile phone, using your computer, try to ransom the company, that kind of thing. That's why I think another new opportunity will be you need to be very cyber savvy. You need to equip your cyber security and cyber equipment well as well. This is on my personal level. I need to learn a lot of this thing, and at the same time, apart from cyber hygiene, I also need to be very care about my health situation. I will do jogging, running, do gym. Compared with before, it's very normal. Even I wear the mask, I still need to go to gym. It's very different. And we treasure a lot of personal time with family and with friends. Because in the past, Hong Kong basically lockdown. We are very lucky. We only locked down less than a month.
Yeah.
But for Hong Kong people, we always say, oh, it's so unfortunate for us. How can we do? Because our place is very small. That's why we really treasure the time, the dining time, the meeting time with friends, physically. This is something that, from a personal basis, I think I continue to treasure this kind of treasure time with my family and as well as with my friends. On the professional side, to a certain extent, we are a bit lucky because we're doing the fintech. Basically, we are digitalize the whole loyalty journey with the banks, with the insurance company. We extend our model to the mall. We also extend our model to corporate already. But because of COVID, they give us another chance. Yes, we digitalize. But in the past, we only planned to bring the customer digitally to the physical restaurant, physical shop. Because of COVID, they can't go to physical shop. They can't go to physical restaurant. That's why the bank requests us. Why not? You also get some online delivery company like Foodpanda, Deliveroo, or maybe Uber. That's why we able to create some new product. We combine the online product and the offline product in one voucher. And at the end, who benefit? Customer benefit, we benefit, and also the marketer benefit. That's why I think pandemic give you a lot of opportunities, but you need to think about how to do the evolving change. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, you made a number of amazing points there. I think one thing that's perhaps important for us to acknowledge is kind of like the relative privilege of certain personal experiences of the pandemic over others. I mean, we're here to talk about Asia Pacific, which is a huge region. We look at New Zealand, which I guess would be the place everybody's wanted to be, where everything's been the smoothest. And now we look at the situation in India, which is obviously just a human tragedy. And so I think that backdrop is just so variable. It's very hard to talk about, one regional experience. But the other thing that I think is interesting is, certainly for me, when we were setting up the business in Asia, is it's so much about understanding each country by country, about spending time on the ground there and getting to know it. And so I'm wondering how hard it's been to grow opportunities across Asia during the pandemic.
Let me share some of my thought here is because for us, we are not only Hong Kong focused, basically we're Asia focused. Originally, we planned to go to Taiwan and Singapore, to stay there for a few months, to set up the team, to meet the people, meet the business contact. But because of COVID, it sounds like original our plan is Q3 we will go to Taiwan and Singapore to station for a few months. But now because of COVID we can't do it. What we changed our plan is because we have a lot of regional client, regional insurance company, regional bank, and also regional merchant as well. What are we doing is, as long as we can tag on the regional headquarters, maybe they are based in Hong Kong, we are able to extend into Singapore, into Taiwan, into different locations. This is something that we are work on, and we find that it's work because you need to have one case study that proven in Hong Kong. Other countries we're willing to follow. This is some of the tips that we are working on in is workable. But just like what you say, if I go to Japan, if I go to some of the locations that really need a lot of personal relationship, then for sure, this is a kind of, the development process, business development process will be a bit delayed. Then we need to shuffle our plan again. Which country, if even you don't have any physical existence or physical be there, you can still continue to do business or expand your business from scratch. That's why we are also doing this kind of shuffling and ranking for which country we'll prioritize first. We are changing our plan. Yeah. Currently, but the good thing is we got a lot of client, which is regional client. This is a bit help from this perspective.
Excellent. Yeah, because I think it's something that people often very much underestimate when they're coming west to east, is that these are countries that are incredibly different. The relationships are based on trust in like a very deep way, and that even though it seems the land of opportunity when things were drying up in Europe, it can be incredibly hard, and you need to really have this durability, I think, like be there for the long term and be really committed to understanding Asia country by country. It used to make me laugh when people would think that you're an expert on Korea because you've lived in China, or they're so vastly different. It's such a unique experience on both a cultural and a professional level. But anyway, okay, thank you. Sengti, do you have anything to add about kind of different experiences of growth in this time? If not, I'll move us along. But
I think that's something that I share as well. And coming from a freshly minted entrepreneur, I was actually looking very much forward to the opening up of the airspace, right? Where the old world of business travel and conferences will resume. In fact, Singapore had been planning for the WEF forum, in June, July, but unfortunately, with whatever developments that have been happening, that has been canned. It's part and parcel of life, and I guess in this new normal, with the pandemic, you can't really plan too much ahead. I think that's the first thing that has changed. The second thing is going digital has pros and cons. So we have mentioned about it, the lack of physical touch, and I think that's something that business leaders and entrepreneurs like ourselves have to really grapple with it and have to overcome it. Right. In the past, we can just travel, pick up the phone, book an air ticket. I'll be in Hong Kong in the morning. I can fly out at night. Right. One day I can do a lot of magic tricks, having that touch and all. But now you have to go through this Zoom, and it is tiring. And in fact, you can see a lot of literature, news, and articles online everywhere.
yeah.
Business people are tired of all these web meetings, but that is just the way that we have right now. And I think business plans will change, the way the structure would change, and the way relationships are being formed and maintained. Unfortunately, there have been a growing sense of distrust and a growing sense of xenophobia and many other depend the lack of traveling. That's something that businesses have to handle and people like us have to manage.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that I wanted to speak with you about. And I guess one of the things that's concerning is in a world that's so vast, in countries that have amazing cultures and so on, that we've all, first of all, been unable to leave our own. And that there's also been this tide of populism and xenophobia that's been rising across the world at the same time. So everyone's been getting locked in, perhaps by orders from the government, but also by fear of the outside as well. There's a worrying trend, as we all know, towards xenophobia towards Asian people at the moment that's been, perpetuated in the West. But I'm interested in how this actually resonating in Asia, because obviously we're mostly talking about the experience of Asian Americans or of Asian people living in Europe when we think about the impact of this. But Hannes, I want to come to you first. Like, what are your thoughts on this? Like, what are people thinking about what's going on the ground in Hong Kong? Is it something people are aware of? Is it affecting how people are thinking about what life is going to be like again when we are all traveling around the world?
Okay, first thing is we can't travel, until the end of the year. I don't think people will pay a lot of attention from this perspective. And within Hong Kong, basically majority of the people are Asians, and we have some foreigners as well. But foreigners treat us very well, in Hong Kong, this city. That's why locally we didn't experience. That's why that's this kind of xenophobia. But when we watch the news, but nowadays when we watch the news, we need to be very skeptical whether the news is over exaggerate or not. We don't know, but that's why we need to be skeptical to pick what kind of news that you need to receive. You need to digest. You need to have your own judgment. And I think a lot of people also a bit scared if they go to US. I think Europe is still okay to a certain extent. They don't have that kind of xenophobia, Asia xenophobia that much. But for US, I think some of the location that a lot of my friends, if they need to go to US, they really consider whether they should do. I mean, they should go right now or maybe when this kind of thing is getting settled. But the good thing that we feel that the recent last 6 months, this kind of thing has been a bit settled compared with last year because of change of the president of US. I think to a certain extent it helps a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I very much hope so. But one of the things recently when I was speaking with some of, our community in APAC was people who might have children at universities in the US, people who might have property or
Mm.
people who, whatever, that we're so much more globally exposed than when we ever were before, and what happens in one part of the world affects the other. Sengti, you did touch on that briefly there, but is there anything you want to share about how Singaporeans are reacting to news of the events that are going on around xenophobia in US and in Europe?
Singapore is a very young nation, right? But we have our roots way started in 1819, where modern Singapore was founded. So Singapore has been a port, an open country whereby we are made up of multiracial, multi-ethnic, multi-religious, multicultural. That's something that we have actually taken pride in. So myself, I love Chinese food, I love Indian food, I love Malay food, I love all sorts of cuisine. Right? I have friends from all around. And that is something that we grew up with. I'm 40, 41, right? So that's something that I've been growing up with, and that is part and parcel of life. We take it, But of late, that cohesion has
Yeah.
shown some signs of fissures, so as to speak. And it started with the news, the wave of news, right? The speed of news from the West, from the States, right? Where Black Lives Matters, and then you have Donald Trump and all these anti-Asian sentiments coming out from the West. And I think COVID has changed a lot. For 18 months, people feel different. People live their
Yeah.
life very differently. And a lot of us have been trapped. They feel trapped, they feel imprisoned. Right? These are very strong words that have been used by many, many respondees in many surveys. And that is a fact that many leaders and government leaders are actually aware of. So that has changed the psyche, and that has changed the way, the lens things are being viewed through. And race and culture stuff are something that's so inert. It's something that goes deep down in us, right? You can't deny it. Between us, there are differences, but we will live to accept the differences. However, when something sparks a change or something sparks the way you look at things, your perception, that is dangerous. So coming to it, COVID has mutated. The virus has mutated. So the latest variant actually was first discovered in India. It's not really an Indian COVID virus per se, but then
Yeah,
folks who
absolutely.
are Indian are misviewed, misjudged, and there is a wrong perception of Indians that virus is dangerous has caused the waste and or whatever you want in Singapore. And recently, there have been episodes of local Singaporeans coming up to local Indians and voicing their displeasure just because they look different. And I think that's something that is not nice and something that's not acceptable.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely correct. And I think it's incumbent also upon people who are working for media outlets to think about what those names mean when we talk about them. We can call a variant the Delta variant instead of saying the Indian variant. There are ways in which we can not assign blame to whoever was caught holding the thing last. It's not really, that's not where it originates from. So I thank you for that. I'm sad to hear that that's happening there. But on the other hand, there have been amazing shows of solidarity across the world during the pandemic. I mean, during the Black Lives Matter protests, I saw protests going on in Tokyo. So there's also been a connectivity amongst struggles that we've not really seen before. I think we've all been so at home, glued to whatever's going on, that the suffering of a group of people on the other side of the world is suddenly something that we really can visibly show our support for. So that's been a nice way to see the unification. But yeah, there's been some worrying trends, and as you say, perhaps with the change in government, we're going to see a shift away from this. We're going to come out of the pandemic, and hopefully some news outlets can become a little bit more responsible with how they consider naming and speaking about certain variants. I want to come back to think about what you both are working on now. So Honest, you've got a number of different projects going on. We're now in summer of 2021. We've made it to the summer of this year. What's the next year looking like for you? The next 6 months and ahead? What are you focusing on? What are you excited about right now?
Next year, actually, one of my plan or maybe my wish or my dream, I hope I can travel. This is one thing that I really, look forward personally. You can see that I have 40 trips per year. And even when I work with Travel Zoo, I have around, maybe also close to maybe 20 to 30 trips. Now it's zero trip. For me, I really miss the plane. I really miss the hotel. I really miss lots of my friends, in other country. This is something that I really look forward if I'm able to no need to quarantine after I take the second shot of vaccine. There's no quarantine. I will go to the country that without quarantine to visit my friends and also visit that location. This is from my personal perspective. And professionally, the good thing is, like recently, the Hong Kong government will distribute around 5,000 Hong Kong D, which is around 800 USD to all the Hong Kong citizens, and it is in the digital voucher format. This gives us a very very good chance for us to partnering with a lot of wallet company like Alipay, like Octopus, like WeChat Pay. That's why we are looking forward in the second half of the year. We will be very busy in working on this project, partnering with the wallet company to grow the market, because this thing is good. Is Hong Kong government tried to digitalize. Pandemic give us a chance to digitalize all the voucher, digitalize all the cash in a very very fast-paced manner, and we are able to be part of it. That's why in the second half of the year we'll be very busy from this perspective. And I must say I look forward to second year, and I hope pandemic will be end soon. This is my personal dream as well. Yeah.
Well, I think it's one we all certainly share. Seng Ti, what about you? What are you excited about at the moment professionally?
Yep. Of course, personally, I share the same thing as Honest. I hope this pandemic will end soon, but I am a bit more, how should I put it, a bit more pragmatic in the sense that, life would not come back immediately to what we have known it in the past, like before, 18 months before. It's not going to happen that fast. It will definitely take some steps for normalcy to resume, right? I miss traveling as well, right? And all the good food and friends all around the world. Professionally, I'm trying to build my platform for the corporate functions as a service. Right? It's something that I am taking pains to structure it and to develop it. Building a tech team right now, but I think that's the right opportunity right now, right? Where everything are going digital. It's tough to find the right talent, not necessarily the talent with the right skills, but talents who share the same passion and who are willing to join you in the journey to develop and build a business. And I think that is very important for entrepreneurs like us, right? Building a business is not just about finding the right people and delegating jobs and responsibilities. It's about building something together. And I think that again comes back to the human touch. And I do worry as well, right? How do you manage people working from home? And how do you manage millennials who have very different aspirations? And they think differently, they behave differently, and they expect a lot of different things from people like me.
And what's one of the biggest things that you've learned over the last year that you'll be kind of taking forward with you? I mean, you mentioned there that we're not going to go back to how things were. I don't think we will, nor do I think we should. I think there's been a lot of learning experiences over the last 18 months around how we look after people that work for us, how we think about the environment, what social issues we care about, and how we're going to have corporates held to be accountable for that. So Seng Ti, and not to put you on the spot, but is there something that you're going to take with you from this last 18 months that's really been a lesson either on a personal or a professional basis?
Yep. I think the first thing would be change is inevitable, right? First of all, you have to accept change, and things are always changing. And if you resist it, that is not exactly the smartest thing to do, and that is not exactly the most logical thing to do, right? So change is a constant. It sounds cliche, but that is truth. The second thing is, you have to accept, you have to be inclusive, you have to allow diversity to take place, and that's how people and that's how come together, assimilate. Then that's where you co-create and it becomes bigger than yourself. If you are inward and you exclude, I don't think that would ever happen. I think digital has actually allowed us to actually be much more inclusive. In fact, us having this chat here together across the globe and with an audience around the world, that says it all. We need to be inclusive, not just a talk, but walk the talk together. And I think that's very important. Inclusion in diversity.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely correct. I mean, one of the sadnesses for me, I mean, I'm sat in London right now and you guys are in Asia, and obviously it's phenomenal that we can stay in touch. But I think there's so much that I learned about humility and understanding of different cultures by being in a country where you are not the same as everybody else, where you don't understand always what's happening or what certain foods are or what languages people are speaking. And I think that is something that in terms of inclusivity that I do miss, is that ability to expose oneself to things that make you feel uncomfortable, that make you feel unsure of yourself. But hopefully we can try and push ourselves to do that, even though we're not able to physically travel. We can all be learning about new cultures, learning about new issues, thinking about our own, our own journeys to date, and where we can learn from our mistakes in the past and so on. I think a lot of people have been self-reflecting, and like that can be its own confrontation. But thank you so much. Honest, what about you? Are there any lessons from the last 18 months that you're going to take forward? And that can be personal as well as professional.
Yeah, I think pretty much like Santi, change is inevitable, and we learn how to change. The good thing is because during the last 20 years, I have been working for startup, even Yahoo or Travelzoo. That's why I have already built a muscle power for change. This is one of the good things. Even with pandemic, I already know, how to start a business without, without travel, without much resources. This is something that I must appreciate my previous experience to train me up. And another thing that I would like to look in my slash career, I would like to pay more attention to groom, the young talent in the startup community. Another thing that I really like to do is the SDG goal. Currently, I'm picking the SDG goal for my company. Even my company is a startup. I think we may able to do something that can contribute the environment, contribute, the poverty, this kind of thing. That's why I think being a good corporate, we need to, apart from diversity, I think what we need to do is we also need to you need to pay more attention about the environment, about the climate, about the government. This is something that I would like to, add a lesson for me add a lesson for me to learn, and also I hope I can contribute to the ESG, community.
Yes, that's amazing. And I mean, it's been so heartening for me to see. I was really worried that over the last 18 months that everybody would be focusing so much on kind of return for their companies in a difficult environment, that ESG would drop to the bottom of people's priority list. And it's been amazing to see that the momentum has kept going. And in APAC, if I think to 3 years ago, when we started talking about ESG, it was so nascent, especially in the corporate finance community, and understanding. And wow, I mean, both of your countries have just rocketed ahead. And that has been, I'd say, one of the most exciting things to watch, because in the West, yeah, we might have been there earlier in America and in Europe, but it was so glacial, the pace of progress, with people who are getting on board with ESG. And I mean, Seng T knows from the work at the ACTS over the last 2 to 3 years, the level of awareness, the level of drive, and the level of pressure that governments and corporations and funds are placing on the whole community is just really resulting in real change. So that's super exciting. Seng T, any other thoughts or insights to share with us on Singapore and its journey to recovery as we're looking ahead now, and perhaps even around that issue of ESG?
Yep. So I think just building on that as well, and I think that's a very good discussion. Looking forward, what's there to come, right? What are the opportunities for the future that has come? I call it the new digital normal. And first of all, digital. That's nothing else to say. Everything would have to go digital. Most of it and changing. If we are the new digital normal where many will change, and I used to go where I can tell you how it will look like, but I think we are seeing the change. The way our personal life, the way we work, the way people interact, the way government, B2B, G2B, C2C, whatever it is all changing. And that is at breaknecking speeds. So those are the things that are happening. Second thing is this wave of ESG, environmentally friendliness, awareness, and action. Last, action. The first two words there longest of time. Action is so the word that I came from. I was a treasurer, and I did my ESG event in 2020, right? A lot of them were asking me, why do you want to talk about ESG, Seng T? We are corporate treasurers. We talk about finance. What on earth are you talking about? But fast forward to today, 2021, Singapore is rushing ahead with a lot of green initiatives. green financing, green bonds issuance, carbon trading, carbon exchange. And that has trickled down from the government to the corporates. So if you are a MNC and you want to operate in any space, you need to take care of your ESG, your carbon footprints, and etc. etc. And it's not just because the government says you have to do it, but the consumers are more aware. Millennials, like I mentioned, they think differently. They are willing to splurge to get that cup of coffee served in, sustainable farms, and the cup must be recyclable or reusable, and they do not want it in plastics. And that has changed. Consumer behavior and patterns have changed. And all these forces are sort of sandwiching the corporates who have long resisted all this ESG thing. And that has come about. And the third part I would say is I think the way people react with all this news about, you want to call it a xenophobic, or you want to call it a clash of the West and the East, or in fact, some have coined it even nicely the yellow peril, right? And you look at the amount of news going about that, it's like us versus you, we versus them, the poor versus the rich, the have versus the have-nots, the Chinese versus the rest, or whites versus blacks. And I think that is something that is worth taking notice of, because end of the day, we are all in this together and we are all one. I truly believe in it. We are all one human race. And as a Christian, I believe that God made us all different, and that diversity makes us all unique. And we have to come together to make it happen. So those are the three things that I think that is worth mentioning and looking at. Pretty much the field of.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful. And I found it quite interesting as well. I mean, we're talking about the pace of change around ESG. And I think Honest is sat in Hong Kong, you're sat in Singapore. We both know there's quite a lot of, we all know, sorry, there's quite a lot of healthy competition between the two places. And I think ESG being one of those things that we're now going to compete over getting better in is so amazing. Like, let's hold the golden carrot of who can be best at ESG. I believe that is a rare example of competition really driving change that will help all of us. Honest, any final thoughts or insights to share with us about Hong Kong and its recovery as we look to coming out of this pandemic?
Good thing is because I think China set a very good example, for the pandemic recover. And once China getting settled, what I believe is once they getting settled, getting more people to get the second vaccine, I think we will open the border between China and Hong Kong. And it will be very benefit to Hong Kong, from a tourism perspective, from a business perspective. And we expect probably it will, by the end of this year, I think this border will start to open first. And after that, we will, once the Hong Kong people getting the vaccine rate is getting higher and higher, maybe more than 70%, I think we started to have some travel bubbles, maybe with Singapore, with Australia, with Taiwan,
Yes,
for this. And I think to a certain extent, it will facilitate more business actions, more interaction among the countries. Yeah. This is something that I can see it. And I think like pandemic is give us one of the very good lesson is a lot of things you say is normal, new normal. Actually, is super normal now. And everyone has the muscle power there to get use of this kind of thing, work from home, stay from home, or get everyone adapt changes more easily. I think this is a very, very good changes, and also make us be more patient. Because in the past, you think that a lot of things is taken for granted. But now even go to restaurant, it's not taken for granted.
Yeah.
It depends on whether you have anyone have the infection or not. Whether you can go to school. In the past, you think it's normal. Now it's not normal. It depends on the student or the kids whether they have anyone infected or not. That's why I think we'll treasure our life more. We'll treasure the human touch more. And this is something that I think the whole nation learned it from the pandemic. I think it's a very, very good lesson for the human being to think about it. And also why ESG is coming to my mind, also getting a lot of a lot of corporate planning to adopt it. I think pandemic give them a very, very good lesson to rethink about the future of the globe, the future of the next generation.
I think you're absolutely correct there. I mean, I recently just travelled back from Amsterdam to London on the Eurostar after taking the most tests anyone's ever taken and filling in lots of forms. And I felt so grateful for everyone who did everything that allowed that journey to be possible. And I could feel that sense from everyone around. And I think, as you say, being like treasuring things more will certainly be something that I think we'll see from everybody. So thank you so much for that. And then finally, I want to turn to both of you. You've both gone on a similar journey coming out of enormous corporate roles. And I want to ask, I think a lot of people are considering their options and what they might like to contribute to the world and have ideas for their own startups and so on. So Sengti, I'm going to come to you first, and then I'll come to Hannes. Any final piece of advice for other budding entrepreneurs who are thinking about making their next move? What's your tips?
Yep. I think first of all, you need to ask the question to yourself, honestly and sincerely, right? And be aware acutely that you only live once. So YOLO, right? And ask yourself, what do you really want in life? And if it really bothers you to stay in a corporate lifestyle, then I think you really need to choose the path that your heart really desires. Right? It sounds like all lyrics from songs, but I think that's quite true. Listen to what your heart says, and then think about whether you can deliver it. And the life of an entrepreneur is not easy. So I'll not paint a bed of roses here. It's not easy, but it is very fulfilling, especially when you see that you build things. And I think that is what human beings want, right? Satisfaction, achievement.
Yeah, absolutely. Hannes, over to you. Any final piece of advice?
For me, I have been entrepreneur, pretty a long time already. The good thing is in the past, I'm having the American umbrella or corporate umbrella to be the entrepreneur. This time, I think the only difference is I have zero funding, I have zero, zero brand. This is something that I built on, and I must say it gives me a very good exposure that you have zero funding and zero brand. What should we do? And I must say, during the past periods, 18 months, I really learned a lot how to do this kind of thing with zero funding and zero branding. The good thing is I got a very good community that I built up before. That's why in every location, in every aspect of the function, I'm able to find some friends or connection to ask for, and they're willing to help me. That's why I think to a certain extent, if you're being entrepreneur, don't afraid to ask for help. That's the first thing. Second thing is build a good character when you're in corporate. Then you will have a lot of network, a lot of good people is willing to help you. Because at the end of the day, if you don't have the corporate hat, if you don't have the corporate identity, people are still willing to help you. That means that in the past you really do a good job. I mean, for yourself and for your company. That's why they're willing to help you. And I think this is very important. Just like Santi say, being entrepreneur, you'll be very lonely. It's a kind of not easy job. You always need to ask yourself why I need to be an entrepreneur. But the good thing is the satisfaction is tremendous. Not talking about if you're able to get to be unicorn or maybe able to IPO or maybe able to corporate exit. That reward is amazing. Second thing is you are able to pick your team and build your team and also build your culture for the company, which is not a lot of companies that allow you to do it. This is something that I really enjoy and I'm still working on. I'm still learning.
Excellent. Well, I guess all I'm able to say from me is thank you so much to both of you, Hannes and Senti, for joining us today. Thank you everyone for being here to listen to us, and I hope everyone enjoys the rest of the Town Hall Summit. Thank you.